those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
I think she's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
Whatever I'm saying, this is the first time that she's been she may be. But my point is that job would not maybe have been open to her.
No, I understand. I just wanted
us.
to clarify that.
Yeah.
Looks like The View is at it again, stirring up controversy and putting someone new in their usual drama show. This time, the target is Karoline Leavitt. You heard that right. In another shocking moment, the hosts managed to humiliate her in a way that has people talking. But what exactly did they say? Trust me, you'll be shocked.
Yesterday, the new White House press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, gave her very first press conference where she announced that they're adding extra seats to the briefing room. Take a look.
It's essential to our team that we share President Trump's message everywhere and adapt this White House to the new media landscape in 2025. This White House believes strongly in the First Amendment, so it's why our team will work diligently to restore the press passes of the 440 journalists.
Whoopi kicked things off by showing a clip of Karoline Leavitt, the new White House press secretary, making her big debut. The main takeaway was that Trump's team is bringing in more journalists, influencers, and podcasters to the press room, basically opening the doors to non-traditional media. Leavitt was hyping it up, saying they're restoring revoked press passes and making space for the new media landscape. Now, the View crew decided to pick this up and talk. I mean, mock on it. And guess what?
That they were going to give unqualified.
God, how boring!
Unqualified
can they get somebody there not so
Behind
tedious?
the Table podcast needs to apply for White House credentials. Oh, they'd love having Joy in that room.
Joy Behar never holds back, and this time was no different. She called the whole thing dull and pointless, which, let's be real, sounds like Joy. But then she went for the biggest shade and said that Karoline Leavitt only got the job because she's attractive and because she is a 10. Can you believe that? Now, that's the kind of headline that gets people talking, and the View hosts are aware of it very well.
So I got a question! So wait a second. So in other words, instead of Bob Woodward, they want Kim Kardashian? What? I don't get it.
Wait.
To her supporters, this is just Joy being Joy. She's known for saying what a lot of people are thinking, but might be too hesitant to say. In their eyes, Trump has a long history of surrounding himself with young, attractive women in key positions. Think Hope Hicks, Kayleigh McEnany, etc. And Behar is simply pointing out what they see as a pattern. They argue that Leavitt, at 26, is relatively young for a national campaign press secretary, and her rapid rise to such a major role raises legitimate questions about qualifications versus loyalty and optics.
Actually have a leader in this building who is supporting them in doing their jobs that they were hired to do, which is to detain, arrest, and deport illegal criminals who have invaded our nation's borders over the past 4 years. That's what the president is committed to seeing. Peter.
Very quickly, just following up on the question on immigration first. President Trump, during the course of the campaign in 2024, said the following about illegal immigration. He said, they're going back home where they belong, and we start with the criminals. There are many, many criminals. NBC News has learned that ICE arrested 1,179 undocumented immigrants on Sunday, but nearly half of them, 566 of the migrants, appear to have no prior criminal record besides entering the country illegally. Is the president still focused exclusively, which is a civil crime, it's not criminal.
It's a federal crime.
So I'm asking, though, he said he was going to focus on those violent offenders first. So is violent offenders no longer the predicate for these people to be deported?
The president has said countless times on the campaign trail, I've been with him at the rallies, I know you've been there covering them too, Peter, that he is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals. And if you are an individual, a foreign national, who illegally enters the United States of America, you are, by definition, a criminal. And so therefore, you are subject to deportation.
I apologize for interrupting. So to be clear, violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said two things can be true at the same time. We want to deport illegal criminals, illegal immigrants from this country, but the president has said that, of course, the illegal criminal drug dealers, the rapists, the murderers, the individuals who have committed heinous acts on the interior of our country and who have terrorized law-abiding Americans American citizens, absolutely those should be the priority of ICE, but that doesn't mean that the other illegal criminals who entered our nation's borders are off the table.
Understood. Then let me ask you a separate question about the confusion that still exists across the country right now as it relates to the freeze or pause as it's described. President Trump, of course, ran one of the key policy items was that he was going to lower prices, lower the cost of everything from groceries, as he often said. But in many of the cases, it would seem that some of these moves could raise prices for real Americans on everything from low-income heating, that program, child care programs. Will nothing that the president's doing here in terms of the freeze in these programs raise prices on ordinary Americans?
What particular actions are you referring to that
I'm
would...
referring to LHEAP right now. That's the low-income heating program, for example. We can talk about, there's no clarity, so I could refer to a lot of them. We don't know what they are specifically. Can you tell us that LHEAP is not one of those affected?
So you're asking a hypothetical based on programs that you can't even identify.
Well, I just identified.
What I can't...
On the other hand, critics argue that Behar's comments were not done. If a conservative had said the same thing about a woman on the left, it would be considered offensive, right? They say Leavitt is a seasoned political operative, having worked in both the Trump administration and as a congressional spokesperson. To them, Behar's remarks weaken Leavitt's experience and reinforce an outdated narrative that women in politics only advance due to their looks rather than their skills. Now let me show you what wild things people are saying, because it will definitely shock you as much as it did me. Carly is young, attractive, talented, and very well-spoken. Joy is none of these things. Ouch, this was harsh, no? To say she got the job because Trump thinks she's a 10 is just foul. To say a woman got to where she is because of her looks is just disrespectful to women everywhere.
Laws, and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
And rumors have it that Karoline Leavitt did not take it lightly. Reports are going out of this world that she was so furious. I mean, true or not, after all, Behar's comments were more opinion-based than an outright accusation of wrongdoing. You heard the comments, right?
Bang, Rowan, I couldn't do that at 27. No nonsense, straight to the point, courage, detail. By the way, I think the way that she answered is a lesson that many Liberal MPs could learn faced by...
Many are saying that this whole situation is an example of media polarization. Some view Behar as someone highlighting overlooked aspects of Trump's hiring decisions, while the other sees her as a biased commentator making baseless, sexist claims. But regardless of where you stand, one thing's for sure, Joy Behar knows how to keep the media cycle buzzing. And if you think she is the only one making these comments, well, you are wrong. We've got Whoopi next, and what's fun without her?
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you.
Whoopi Goldberg wasn't losing her mind over the new press room setup. That was just background noise. What really made her blood boil was Karoline Leavitt's declaration. There will be no wokeness here.
Without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables.
That one sentence set Whoopi off. She went straight into history teacher mode, breaking down how wokeness is exactly what paved the way for women, especially women of color, to even have a shot at positions of power. She laid it all out. Decades of struggle, legal battles, social movements, all leading to the moment where someone like Leavitt can stand at that podium. And now, Leavitt is dismissing the very thing that helped put her there. Whoopi wasn't having it.
Talk about it, and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Because black people couldn't get into colleges. Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women.
Conservatives and anti-woke folks saw Whoopi's rant as liberal overreaction because she turned a simple statement into a history lecture. To them, woke has become a broad term for everything they oppose in modern politics, ranging from cancel culture and heightened political correctness to policies they believe prioritize emotions over facts. They think Whoopi totally twisted what Leavitt said to fit her own agenda. When Leavitt said no wokeness, they argued she wasn't trashing civil rights or equality. She was just saying she wants politics to be more about running the country and less about checking identity boxes. And then there's the hypocrisy argument. Some pointed out that Whoopi made her career in Hollywood at a time when it was a lot less woke. Fewer DEI programs, fewer diversity mandates, fewer sensitivity edits. So, for her to act like wokeness is the only reason people like her got a seat at the table? Yeah, they weren't buying it. Whoopi hella mad that we didn't ask watch CNN and MSNBC. Poor Whoopi, she thinks someone cares about what she thinks. Now, the real question? Is woke even a real thing anymore, or just a word both sides throw around whenever they're mad? Sarah Haynes and Alyssa Farah Griffin dived in as well and shared their opinions, which nobody actually asked for.
I think future Democratic White Houses should do the same thing. We're realizing this election, how people consume media has drastically changed. This was the Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, Alex Cooper election. It wasn't mainstream old school media that was driving people's interest.
Sarah and Alyssa weren't completely against the idea of broadening the press pool. Alyssa, being a former Trump staffer, even admitted it was kind of brilliant in terms of media strategy. She pointed out that people don't get their news from traditional sources anymore. This was the Joe Rogan election, after all. But she also warned that if influencers flood the press room, who's keeping them accountable?
Obviously with this administration, but if you want to go directly to the source and have people receive it themselves and put it out to their audiences, I'd rather have them in that room.
Sarah backed that up, saying that whether people like it or not, most Americans get their news from social media now. So, having influencers in the room could, in theory, help the public get information straight from the source. But wait, I smell hot sun, do you?
You had to have qualifications. So I guess the rise of mediocrity is here to stay.
They're making Snapchat equivalent to the New York Times.
No, but you guys are minimizing something really important here. There was a time where there were 3 evening broadcasts for news.
And here she is, Sunny, declaring with her usual, "This is the rise of mediocrity." Yeah, right, Sunny. Hostin was not having it. She basically called the new press credential rules a joke, saying they probably lowered the bar so much that just about anybody with a Wi-Fi connection could get in. She made it clear she doesn't trust that these so-called new voices are actually real journalists. In her view, this isn't about making the press room more accessible. It's about stuffing it with pro-Trump media personalities who'll toss softball questions and hype up his administration. And joy? She took it a step further, basically laughing at the idea that serious investigative reporters were about to be replaced by TikTokers. She even threw in some classic sarcasm, joking that Snapchat is apparently now on the same level as the New York Times. But what was her point really?
Because you have this degree and you're with this outlet, you've never gotten news information wrong.
Well, I will say this. I feel a lot better when I know there are standards people have to meet.
Yeah, of course.
And so you can bring
important.
in whoever you want.
Don't they know that independent media folks see it completely differently? To them, mainstream media has been a joke for years, full of biased coverage and journalists who act more like activists than reporters. They think the traditional press has gotten way too comfortable gatekeeping access and controlling narratives. So, letting in influencers, podcasters, and independent voices, they see it as a win for free speech and a way to break up the mainstream media's monopoly. They also call out the superiority in Sunny and Joy's complaints. Since when did journalism belong only to a select club of Ivy League graduates and cable news anchors? They argue that independent creators often ask better questions and cover stories the big networks ignore. So why shouldn't they be allowed in?
Because, I disagree that people got stuff wrong. I don't know what people were looking for, because the people I talked to were not looking for the things that these folks were looking for.
But then there's the big question nobody can ignore. Is this really about opening up access, or is it just about bringing in friendlier voices for Trump? Critics say the move is a calculated play to flood the room with conservative-friendly media, making press briefings less about accountability and more about a constant PR boost. And just when this was about to end,
about whether they get it wrong or right, it's what they do to correct it. That's the problem.
That does matter. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I want.
Whoopi jumped in with a cautious take. She wasn't totally against the idea of changing the press landscape, but she made it clear. If this turns into state-run propaganda, she's calling it out. She also made a solid point: standards in journalism matter. Yes, traditional media has gotten things wrong, but at least there's accountability. If influencers start treating press briefings like content farms, where does that leave the truth?
We have to have ourselves together. We can't just say stuff in spite of what they tell you. We can't just spout stuff. So I want that for everybody. And if they're going to guarantee that...
If you thought this was just a debate over press credentials, think again. This is also about who shapes the narrative in 2025. Is this a push for more open discussions, or just another shift in the media landscape? Viewers seem split. Some agreed with Whoopi and said that this whole thing could be a slippery slope. Others sided with Alyssa and Sarah, saying the media landscape has already changed and this is just the next step. But the biggest takeaway? The discussion is far from over, y'all. Now, what do you think? Was this a win for media freedom or just another power move? Did The View hosts go too far this time as well? Or is this just another social media drama? Let me know what y'all think because this one's far from over. If you liked this video, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.